My phone was charging across the room when it buzzed, that soft vibration that usually meant nothing important. I didn't rush to check it. I was standing at the sink, rinsing a coffee mug I'd already forgotten to drink from, watching the cloudy water swirl down the drain. It was one of those quiet Sunday afternoons where time felt suspended. No urgency, no noise, just me and the low hum of the refrigerator. When I finally picked up my phone, I saw my mother's name at the top of the screen. Facebook notification. I smiled without thinking. My mom didn't post often. When she did, it was usually something harmless: flowers in the backyard, a blurry sunset, a quote about gratitude. I leaned against the counter and tapped the notification, already half expecting nothing worth stopping my day for. The caption loaded first. Nothing like making memories with the family. I froze. Underneath the words was a photo I'd never seen before. A wide shot of a white house tucked between pine trees, sunlight bouncing off a lake so still it looked staged. It was beautiful. Expensive. Permanent. I stared at the screen longer than I meant to, my brain trying to catch up with my eyes. A vacation home. I swiped. Another photo appeared. My parents standing on a wooden deck, arms around each other, both wearing the kind of relaxed smiles they never seemed to have at home. My dad had on sunglasses I didn't recognize. My mom's hair was loose, wind-touched, like she hadn't bothered to tame it. Swipe. My younger brother sitting on the steps, drink in hand, legs stretched out, looking completely at ease, as if this place had always belonged to him. Swipe. My sister, barefoot near the water, laughing at something outside the frame. Her laughter felt loud, even though I couldn't hear it. Swipe. A group photo. Everyone together. Everyone except me. I reached the end of the post and felt something cold settle in my chest. No tag name. No casual mention. No wish you were here. Just that sentence sitting there like a closed door. Nothing like making memories with the family. My thumb hovered over the screen, waiting for the second slide to load, until I realized there wasn't one. That was it. I read the caption again, slower this time, as if the meaning might change if I gave it enough attention. The family. Not a family weekend. Not finally all together. Just the family. As if the word had a fixed definition. As if it was obvious who belonged inside it. I locked my phone and set it face down on the counter, suddenly aware of how loud the silence in my apartment felt. The refrigerator hummed. A car passed outside. Somewhere, someone laughed. I told myself not to jump to conclusions. Maybe it was a surprise purchase. Maybe it had just happened. Maybe they planned to tell me later in their own way. My parents were like that sometimes. Slow with news, assuming everyone would understand. But the photos said otherwise. This wasn't a last-minute thing. This was planned, styled, celebrated. I thought about the last time my mom and I talked. How she complained about rising hotel prices. How she joked. Maybe we should just buy a place one day. I'd laughed, assuming it was just talk. I thought about the family group chat that had been quiet for weeks. No hints. No excitement. No accidental slip. And then I realized something that made my stomach drop. This wasn't something they forgot to tell me. This was something they chose not to. I picked up my phone again and scrolled through the comments. Friends congratulating them. Heart emojis. Someone wrote, "So happy your whole family gets to enjoy this." My mom had liked that comment. I felt heat rush to my face, followed by a strange, hollow calm. Not anger. Not yet. Just a sharp awareness. Like stepping into a room and realizing everyone else had been there long before you, rearranging things without asking. I sat down at the small dining table by the window and stared out at the parking lot below. I didn't cry. I didn't call anyone. I just sat there, replaying the caption in my head, making memories with the family. And for the first time in my life, I wondered if I had ever truly been part of the version of family my parents shared with the world. After I put my phone down, I tried to go back to my day like nothing had happened. I reheated lunch, answered 2 emails, folded laundry I didn't really need to fold. I kept moving because standing still made the thoughts louder. Every ordinary task felt slightly off, like I was doing it in someone else's life. By evening, the questions started pressing in. When had they bought it? How long had they known? And at what point did they decide I didn't need to be part of it? I'd always believed my relationship with my parents was steady. Not dramatic, not overly close, but dependable. I was the daughter who didn't cause trouble. The one who didn't ask for much. If something needed organizing, I handled it. If someone needed help, I showed up. I'd built my place in the family by being useful, not loud. Growing up, my siblings were different. My brother needed constant reassurance, constant support. My sister needed praise, attention, validation. I learned early that love in our house wasn't evenly distributed. It flowed toward whoever demanded it the most. So I adapted. I became the one who remembered birthdays. The one who booked tickets, coordinated plans, checked in without being asked. When my parents needed help navigating paperwork or online forms, they called me. When something broke, I figured out how to fix it or who to call. It never occurred to me that this role came with conditions. Looking back, the signs had been there. Invitations that came late, family decisions that were already made by the time I heard about them. Conversations where my input was acknowledged but never acted on. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself I didn't need to be at the center to belong. But the vacation home made something impossible to ignore. This wasn't a small thing. This wasn't dinner plans or a weekend trip. This was a major decision, a future thing. A place meant for gathering, for holidays, for memories. And I hadn't been part of the conversation at all. That night, my phone lit up again. A text from my mom. "Did you see the post? Isn't the place beautiful?" I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. A dozen replies came to mind. None of them felt safe. None of them felt like they would be heard. So I typed the simplest thing I could. "Yes. It looks nice." She responded with a heart emoji and nothing else. No explanation. No invitation. No, "we'll bring you next time." Just an assumption that my acknowledgement was enough. Over the next few days, I noticed how easily my family slipped into talking about the house, just not with me. My sister mentioned lake weekends, in passing during a group call. My brother joked about learning how to grill out there. My parents discussed furniture and views and how peaceful it felt. No one asked if I wanted to visit. No one asked if I'd even known. Each time, I waited for someone to realize it, for someone to pause and say my name. But the moment never came. Instead, I started to see the pattern more clearly than ever before. I wasn't excluded by accident. I was excluded because I didn't demand inclusion. Because I was always understanding. Always flexible. Always the one who didn't make things complicated. And now, that quiet compliance had been mistaken for consent. One afternoon, while scrolling past another photo my mom had reposted, this one of my parents on the deck at sunset, I felt something shift inside me. It wasn't anger. It was clarity. I realized that if I said nothing, this would become the new normal. Not just this house, but everything that followed it. Decisions made without me. Celebrations I'd hear about later. Memories formed in spaces I was never invited into. That scared me more than the hurt itself. I thought about calling my parents. I imagined asking, "Why didn't you tell me?" But I already knew the answers I'd get. "We didn't think it was a big deal. We assumed you were busy. You know we love you." Love, I'd learned, was a word that could exist comfortably alongside exclusion. That night, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, I admitted something to myself I'd never said out loud before. Being easy to live with had cost me my place. And the vacation home wasn't the beginning of that truth. It was just the moment it finally became visible. The first thing I changed wasn't something anyone could see. I didn't announce anything. I didn't confront my parents or post cryptic quotes online. I simply stopped stepping forward to fill the gaps they'd grown used to leaving for me. It started small. My mom called one afternoon while I was at the grocery store, her name flashing on my screen between the bread aisle and the freezer section. Normally, I would have answered right away, pushing my cart to the side, ready to multitask my way through whatever she needed. I let it ring. Not out of spite. Not to punish her. I just didn't feel the urgency anymore. She left a voicemail. "Hey, honey, just had a quick question about something. Call me back when you get a chance." I listened to it twice, then set my phone down and finished my shopping. When I called her back later that evening, her voice sounded lighter than I expected. Almost casual. "Oh, good, you called. I was just wondering if you could look over some numbers for me. Your dad and I are trying to budget for the house." The house. Not our house. Not the family place. Just the house. Said like I'd already know what she meant. "I don't really have time tonight," I said carefully. "Maybe you can ask my brother." There was a pause on the line. Short, but noticeable. Well, he's not great with that stuff, she replied, laughing it off. You know how he is. I did know. I also knew that being great with that stuff had never earned me a seat at the table, just more responsibility. I'm sure he can figure it out, I said. Or maybe Dad. Another pause. Okay, she said finally. We'll manage. After we hung up, I sat on my couch staring at the blank TV screen, my heart beating faster than it should have over such a small exchange. I hadn't been rude. I hadn't said no outright. I just stepped aside, and already something felt different. Over the next week, similar moments followed. A text asking if I could research dock maintenance. An email forwarded to me about local rental regulations. A casual comment about needing someone to coordinate repairs before winter. Each time I responded slower, shorter, or not at all. Not because I didn't care, but because I finally noticed how one-sided caring had become. What surprised me wasn't their reaction at first. It was how quickly the silence filled with assumptions. When I didn't jump in, my brother did badly. He chose a contractor without checking reviews. He misread a permit requirement. My sister forgot to confirm a delivery and blamed the store when it didn't show. None of it was catastrophic, but it was messy, inefficient, loud. And for the first time, none of it was my problem. Then came the message that confirmed what I'd suspected all along. It was from my dad. Your mom's a little stressed. It would help if you were more involved. This place is supposed to bring us together. I read it slowly, absorbing the familiar subtext. Be the glue. Be the easy one. Be the daughter who smooths things over. But something in me resisted. I typed back carefully. I'm glad you're enjoying the house. I'm just giving you space to do things your way. It was the most neutral sentence I could think of. No accusation. No explanation. The response came hours later. We didn't mean anything by the post, you know. There it was. Not an apology. Not an acknowledgement. Just a gentle push to dismiss my feelings before they became inconvenient. I stared at the message, waiting for the familiar urge to clarify, to reassure them I wasn't upset, that everything was fine. It never came. Instead, I felt a quiet certainty settle in. If I explained myself now, nothing would change. They'd reassure themselves, not me. They'd move on, relieved, and I'd be right back where I started, useful, invisible, and expected to stay that way. So I did something I'd never done before. I said nothing. Days passed. Then a week. The house continued to exist without my input. Family conversations went on without me at the center. And in that absence, something became painfully clear. They didn't miss me. They missed my effort. And once I saw that difference, I couldn't unsee it. The shift from discomfort to confrontation didn't happen all at once. It arrived disguised as something practical. My mom called on a Thursday morning while I was at work. I didn't answer. This time, she didn't leave a voicemail. Instead, my phone filled with messages, one after another, each more urgent than the last. Can you talk? It's about the house. We really need your input. I waited until lunch to respond. What's going on? The reply came instantly. We're having trouble with the guest rooms. The layout isn't working, and everyone's frustrated. We thought you could help figure it out. Everyone. The word landed heavily, as if I were still part of that group, despite all evidence to the contrary. I stared at the screen, feeling the old reflex kick in, the need to fix things, to rescue the situation before it turned into a bigger problem. For years, that instinct had been praised, relied on, taken for granted, but something inside me paused. Who's everyone? I typed. There was a delay this time. Your dad, your brother, your sister. The message ended there. I didn't ask the question that followed naturally, and me? I already knew the answer. I suggested a video call, partly out of curiosity, partly because I needed to hear their voices to understand how serious this was. When the screen lit up, the lake house filled the background behind them, wide windows, pale walls, sunlight spilling across furniture that still looked temporary. They looked tired, irritated. My sister spoke first. We're just overwhelmed. This place looked simple online, but it's a lot. My brother jumped in. Yeah, it's not as easy as we thought. No one acknowledged the irony. My mom leaned closer to the camera. We just assumed you'd help with this part. You always do. There it was. not an invitation. An assumption. I took a breath. I didn't know I was expected to. The silence that followed felt heavier than any argument. Well, my dad said slowly, we didn't think we needed to spell it out. I looked at their faces on the screen, people who had no trouble spelling things out when it mattered to them, who planned a major purchase, documented it, celebrated it publicly without ever thinking to include me. So you planned this whole thing without me, I said calmly, but you're surprised I'm not stepping in now. My mom frowned. That's not fair. What would be fair? I asked. My voice stayed even, though my hands were shaking just out of frame. Being part of the decision, being invited, or only being involved when something goes wrong. My sister crossed her arms. Why are you making this about you? That question hit harder than anything else. Because it had never been about me before. And that was the problem. I'm not, I said quietly. I'm responding to what's happening. My dad sighed, rubbing his forehead. This house was supposed to be a good thing. You're turning it into tension. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was familiar. The narrative flipping, the responsibility shifting. I didn't create the distance, I said. I just stopped pretending it wasn't there. The call ended shortly after. Polite. Unresolved. No one apologized. No one tried to understand. That evening, my phone buzzed with a message from my brother. Didn't think you'd make such a big deal out of this. A minute later, one from my sister. Mom's really hurt. She feels like you're rejecting the family. I set my phone down and stared at the wall, the words echoing in my head. Rejecting the family. Not excluded. Not overlooked. Not erased. Rejected. That night, lying in bed, I realized something that made my chest ache. They didn't see my absence as a consequence of their choices. They saw it as disobedience. And for the first time, I understood that staying quiet wouldn't protect me anymore. It would only make their expectations louder. After the call, my family didn't give me space. They gave me a story. It arrived in fragments, texts, forwarded messages, carefully worded comments that all carried the same underlying message. Something is wrong with you. My mom stopped calling and started sending long paragraphs instead. Messages that began with concern and ended with accusation. I don't understand why you're so distant lately. We raised you to value family. This house was never meant to divide us. Each one framed my response as a deviation, not a reaction. As if closeness was a rule I had suddenly decided to break. My dad took a different approach. Shorter messages. Factual on the surface. Your mother's been crying. She doesn't sleep well when things are unsettled. This is weighing on her. I recognized the tactic immediately. Emotional responsibility, neatly folded and handed back to me. If I didn't fix this, I was the cause of her pain. My brother, predictably, went straight for dismissal. You're overthinking it. It was just a post. Why can't you let things go? And my sister, she said nothing at all. Which, somehow, said the most. I read everything without responding. Not because I didn't have answers, but because I was finally aware of what my answers would cost me. Every explanation would be used to smooth things over, not to change them. Every attempt at honesty would be translated into drama. And every boundary would be treated like betrayal. One night, I sat at my kitchen table, my laptop open, scrolling through the comments under my mom's original post again. More congratulations. More heart emojis. Someone had written, your family is so lucky to have this. I wondered what it would feel like to be part of a version of family that looked that complete from the outside. Then my phone buzzed. A message from my mom. We're having a small get-together at the house next weekend. Just immediate family. You're welcome to come if you want. If you want. Not we want you there. Not it would mean a lot. Just an opening framed like an obligation. I stared at the screen, the weight of the invitation pressing down on me. I knew what accepting would mean. Smiling through discomfort. Acting grateful. Pretending the past weeks hadn't happened. It would mean erasing myself again. I typed slowly. I'm not ready. 3 words. Honest. Simple. The response came faster than I expected. This hurts us more than you realize. There it was again, the reversal. My pain translated into cruelty. My distance rebranded as harm. For the first time, I felt something solid form beneath the sadness. Resolve. I wasn't angry anymore. I was tired of explaining something that only mattered to me. Over the next few days, I stopped checking the group chat altogether. I muted conversations. I let calls go unanswered. I focused on my own life, work deadlines, dinners with friends, quiet evenings that didn't require me to perform emotional labor. And something unexpected happened. The noise faded. Without my constant participation, the drama had nowhere to land. My family kept circling the same arguments, but I was no longer at the center of them. Then, late one evening, my mom sent one final message. "We don't recognize you anymore." I read it twice, and for the first time, I didn't feel the urge to defend myself, because I finally recognized myself. The woman who had spent years making space for everyone else had stepped back. And in doing so, she revealed something uncomfortable but undeniable. My place in the family had always been conditional, useful, flexible, quiet, and now that I wasn't playing that role anymore, they didn't know what to do with me. I set my phone down, turned off the light, and let the silence settle, not heavy, not lonely, but calm. I knew there was still one more choice ahead of me. And this time, I was going to make it for myself. The lake house didn't disappear from my family's lives after that. If anything, it became more present, more symbolic, more central to how they saw themselves. Photos kept appearing. Sunsets on the water, morning coffee on the deck, holiday decorations strung across the railing. Each post carried the same quiet message: we're okay, we're together. And each time, the caption echoed a familiar theme. Family time. So grateful for this season. Making memories. At first, I muted my mom's posts. Then, eventually, I stopped checking altogether. Not because it hurt too much, but because it no longer held power over me. One evening, weeks later, my mom called. I almost didn't answer, but something in me felt steady enough to handle it now. Her voice was softer than it had been in a long time. "We miss you," she said. I believed her, in the way people miss something they're used to having. "I know," I replied. There was a pause. "Things feel different," she added cautiously, like she was testing the ground. "They are," I said. "Because I am." She sighed. "We never meant to leave you out." I let the words sit between us. "Intent doesn't change impact," I said finally. Not sharp, not accusing, just true. She didn't argue. She didn't apologize either. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't waiting for either. We talked for a few more minutes about neutral things. Work, weather, nothing about the house. When we hung up, I didn't feel relieved or upset. I felt complete. The closure I'd been waiting for hadn't come from them. It had come from me. A few days later, a friend asked if I'd been to my parents' vacation place yet. She'd seen the photos online and assumed I'd gone. I smiled and shook my head. "No," I said simply. She looked surprised. "Do you want to?" I thought about it. Not with resentment, not with longing, but with clarity. "No," I said again. And meant it, because belonging isn't about proximity or shared spaces. It's about being considered when choices are made. About being invited before memories are created, not after they're posted. My parents had built a place where they felt whole. I had built something else. A life where my worth wasn't measured by how useful I was. Where silence didn't mean absence. Where love didn't require me to disappear. One afternoon, scrolling through old photos on my phone, I found a picture of myself from years ago, standing slightly apart in a family group shot, smiling politely, hands folded in front of me. I looked at her for a long time. She had tried so hard to belong. I closed the photo and set the phone down. If my parents ever truly wanted to know me again, it wouldn't start with a caption or an invitation framed like an afterthought. It would start with accountability. Until then, I was done shrinking. The lake house would always exist. So would the posts. So would their version of family. But I no longer needed to fight for a place in it, because I had learned something quietly, steadily, without drama or declarations. Being left out had hurt. Staying silent had taught me. And walking away, without anger, without revenge, had finally set me free.